Welcome back to another adventure with Journey Beyond Overland. And where are we headed today? Today takes us on an overland journey of around 100 miles from West Virginia into Virginia. And what can you expect to see in that 100 miles? What about the only intact stone fire tower east of the Mississippi? A beautiful mountain reservoir that's over 100 feet deep, in the deep mud holes and forests of a road that could be known by many names: Skidmore Fork, Dunkel Hollow, Switzer Lake, but is best known as the trail to Flagpole Knob. We spent the last 2 days exploring the Canaan Loop and Blackwater Falls State Park areas of West Virginia. But today we were finally headed onward towards Virginia and our original goal of Union Springs Road. There are around 80 miles of pavement between the Blackwater Falls State Park campground where we stayed the night before and Switzer Lake where we expected to start driving towards Flagpole Knob. It's very tempting and easy to race through 80 miles of pavement, even if those pavement miles are as scenic and beautiful as this. But if you take my advice, you'll stop and take a look at places like Seneca Rocks. Other worthwhile places to stop in this area include the highest point in West Virginia, Spruce Knob, as well as Spruce Creek Falls and the Dolly Sods Wilderness area. As Bill and I had already been to those places, today I'd chosen to do something different. Today my sights were set on the tower at High Knob. And that's how, a little before lunch, the five of us found ourselves climbing up this trail at the High Knob trailhead on the border between Virginia and West Virginia off State Route 33. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this is supposed to be an overlanding video, and she's tricked us into going on yet another hike. But I'll tell you this. Part of overlanding is exploring all those little places along the way, especially in cases like this, where the view was supposed to be absolutely beautiful. And as I promised everybody before we started this hike is a short hike. All I said was it was short. I didn't say it was easy. This is not easy. I'm gonna fall over while I'm filming because all these lovely rocks we're walking on. This is really steep. Probably steeper than your average stairway. And then you get up the rock steps. Like that one. But it's 1.3 miles up to the tower. And they all say it's worth the view, so I guess we'll find out when we get there. In the meantime, I'm just glad it's not 90 degrees and that there's some shade. Because in the full sun, 90 degrees, you'd be taking naps on the way up. Did you find the only mud puddle on the entire trail? Once you overcome that short, steep, rocky section, you need to turn right, because this is what you'll find if you go left by mistake. After that turn, you're going to find that the trail is much more gradual and easy all the way to the top. High Knob started serving as a local fire lookout in the late 1930s. The first lookout was actually a rickety platform in the limbs of a tree, and the original lookout, Gerald Foley, he had to shimmy up that tree daily with the help of wooden slats that were nailed to it. By 1940, the Civilian Conservation Corps and some veterans from World War I completed building the current lookout, a building made of stone cut out of the mountaintop. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, the local Forest Service changed to an aerial fire detection system and called for the removal of all of the fire towers in the area, including High Knob. Thankfully, a local VFW post led by David Frankel fought the removal of the High Knob Tower and asked that instead it remain as a memorial to the World War I veterans who had helped to build it. In 1996, the state allotted funds to restore the fire tower and ensure it remained open to the public. The restoration itself cost $39,500, but the new parking lot down on State Route 33, that was an additional $100,000. In 2003, the Forest Service dedicated the newly renovated tower, and of all the guests that day, the most notable was 86-year-old Gerald Foley, that initial lookout man who served at this tower back in the 1940s. Can you imagine what it would have been like living here back in the 1940s? The Friends of Shenandoah website describes it this way. As nighttime closes in and the autumn air cools, not even a silhouette of the tree line remains visible along the darkening mountainside. Quietness trumps over the occasional sound of an evening bird or small creatures trampling on fallen brown leaves. The watchman retreats to his cabin and huddles around a kerosene lamp, as occasional storms provide the only source of natural luminescence with lightning that could jolt a man's nerves straight through. This is the solitude of the vigilant life of a fire tower watchman, like Gerald Foley, who spent his days over 4,000 feet in the air on Shenandoah Mountain. This little patch of mountain forest is part of the George Washington and Jefferson National Forest, which encompasses over 1.8 million acres. From on high, you can also look down almost 2,000 feet below you in the valley to the 118-acre Switzer Lake. This public reservoir reaches depths of over 100 feet. Here you can fish for trout, observe birds, or discover several different varieties of butterfly. As this is a local public water supply, you can't swim here or use motors. To find legal dispersed camping in the area, you must pass beyond the lake up Skidmore Fork.
What's the A stand for?
I don't have a custom license plate.
It says JT on it. Jeep Gladiator. Jeep truck.
I know, Bill noticed that a while back too.
You gotta figure out what the A means. There you go, adventure. Jeep Gladiator adventure.
That makes sense to me. It's about 8.5 miles of dirt road from State Route 33 up to the intersection where you have to choose whether to go towards Flagpole Knob or Union Springs Road. By the time we arrived at this area, we knew we were unlikely to drive all the way up to Flagpole Knob that night. Not to mention that dispersed camping on a Friday night on a holiday weekend, well, we expected we were going to have to find something a little more off the beaten track. For about the first mile of track after you leave the lake behind, you'll find the gravel road so easy that you're likely to encounter RVs and other two-wheel drive vehicles in the local campsites. But don't get too discouraged if you're looking for dispersed camping, because this road definitely gets a little bit more challenging thereafter. Onyx rates the entirety of the Flagpole Knob Trail, including Skidmore Fork, is about a level 2. And I'd agree that there was nothing very technical about what we drove through, though it was often very scenic and a little narrow. About 5 miles in, we finally found what we were looking for. I'd say stay here and hope I don't get stuck.
You got a Rubicon.
This actually might look nice. Hold on a second. There might even be a turnaround. See if there's anybody down here. That is a deep water hole. This is perfect. Come on down. There's a turnaround for, well, yeah, we can turn it around down here with Tristan, no problem. Now you've probably noticed you haven't seen much of Bill today, and well, that's because right now he's behind that camera. And I don't know if he missed what I said about this water hole, but right about now, he's getting a lot more than he bargained for with the depth of that water. Regardless of what parts of Bill just got sopping wet, he soldiered on anyway. This particular offshoot actually led to 3 different campsites. The one that we chose right at the beginning, one that was further back and a little overgrown, and one that if you went all the way back was right next to a small creek. It didn't take long before we were all settling into camp for the night. Bill and I currently have an iCamper 3.0 Mini on the back of this Gladiator, and we also have a CVT mount hood on the trailer. Both of these tents have their strengths and their weaknesses, and one of those challenges is the ladder, because we're still trying to figure out how to get them to lock at just the right height. Surely there's a YouTube video somewhere that can explain it to me. Bill often reminds me that I don't take enough footage in camp, so tonight he took that matter into his own hands and made sure to walk around the camp so you could get a clear picture of exactly what the setup looks like. And where did I take footage? Well, I took it down at the creek at that other campsite, of course, as well as putting up the drone to get a view from on high of what to expect tomorrow. This 4th of July trip was planned with a specific reason in mind. What was that? Why, that was to get me and that Gladiator out on more moderately challenging roads so that I would be better prepared to go to the Ozarks with a group in the fall. And although driving the Canaan Loop was a good start, it's nothing compared to our primary objective on this trip, Union Springs Road.
Play the game with the people that writing the rules. Ain't the fame that I'm after, we're playing the dues. But the thing is that I had to lose. Who's gonna tell me what you really want to do? Let me at the top, cause there ain't a lot of room. Ain't no other option, that's all I ever knew. So I'ma get it poppin', you know how I'ma do. I've been down through the blood and the sweat. Guarantee you will know I'm a threat. I've been down through the blood and the sweat. And I ain't close to being done yet, I'm going on.
So if you've been patiently waiting while we drive all that easy stuff, wondering if we're ever going to find a challenging road, well, you'd better come back next time, because tomorrow is that day. But in the meantime, don't forget to go out and find your own adventure.